Hey, folks, welcome to the Generational Gap. I am Robert, your resident Gen Xer, and right over there on the other side of me is John. John, that's a good name. We'll go with John. John, our resident millennial,
If
and
that even is my real name and generation.
and Captain late to the party.
Hey, we're on time. We started on time.
It's all that matters, right? It's all that
Yeah,
matters. Doesn't
right.
my needs don't matter? Is that
Right. As
correct?
long as the show goes on, it's all that matters. No,
Um,
I was late for the pre-show prep because I was over at the mall at the store trying to get a new phone, and goddamn, did that take forever.
John,
Really
can
obnoxious.
we just go ahead and admit it had everything to do with it took you forever to fill out the information that was needed?
There was no information to fill out, so no.
So again, you just keep, I'm going to say it again, for a generation so dependent on technology, your lack of knowledge surrounding that technology is
I never
amazing
said
to
I
me.
was.
Hey,
Yeah, I'm a fucking troglodyte, man. I don't know
I'm
shit about
I'm
technology.
just pointing this out because I see this a lot in the younger generations. Because I'll be like, hey, just go in your device and do it, and a blank stare is my response. It's the reply, I should say. It's just blank stare, and I'm like, really? I'm supposed to be the dinosaur. I'm supposed to be
Well,
the
you
dinosaur,
are. Doesn't mean you
right?
can't use technology just because you're a dinosaur.
Yeah. Well, we built this city on rock and roll, buddy. We built this city.
Rock and roll.
So
Yeah.
you kids need to shut up and take a few lessons every once in a while and listen to the and get off my goddamn lawn. All right,
Yeah.
so
So now
John,
about that mentality, man. Oh shit, it's Michael Vega in the
Michael
chat.
Vega, Lib Fascist Gang B. What up, sir? Michael Vega. Good to see you in the chat. Welcome, folks. Do me a favor, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't
Yeah.
already. Do all those things that we like, the little clicky things that make our little hearts go pitter
Things
pat.
that help us out too, you know.
Hey, John,
Right.
yesterday was officially 2 weeks away from a big event. What's going on? Tell me about it, John.
Yes, Halloween.
All right.
Halloween super special awesome show coming up. And it's a 3 hour stream for charity for St. Jude's Children's Hospital. So we're going to be raising money for them and giving you guys hopefully a good show. So we'll see how we do. But I'm pretty confident it's going to be fun. And then we also have another one on Friday, December 6th. We're doing a 12-hour live stream for Toys for Tots so that we can raise some money for some kids who may not otherwise get any toys. And so I think that's a good cause, and hopefully we'll see you guys there. And yeah, that'll be a lot of fun too.
Sweet. Hey, also, folks,
Also, wait, which one is it? Is it the 28th? We're having R-rated conservative on.
we
So
are. That's next week,
yes, so
right?
go. That's 10 days from now. So yes,
Oh, a week from
yes,
Monday. Got it.
a week
He's
from Monday.
he's
Yeah,
going to be shooting the stuff.
shooting the shit with us. Yeah, and he's really funny. I recommend you check him out even before he's on here. He's a pretty funny guy. I
Yeah,
enjoy his show.
I'm expecting it's going to be R-rated. Hey, also, folks, as you know, we are associated with Freedom Scoop. You can look down in the description. You can find tags, links, whatever, to Freedom Scoop and get yourself over there. Also, you'll notice in the description there's a link to the Generational Gap T-shirt in your cart. If you put the code GenGap, you will receive 15% off of that T-shirt purchase. I strongly recommend that you get one. We've got some. They're almost here, John. They're almost
They're on
here.
the way.
They're on their
Yeah,
way. I'm excited.
they're
I've heard
OTW.
I've heard good rumors about them. Hey, Michael Vegas said no, and I believe he said no to hitting the like button, and I don't like that.
Yeah,
Remember, every time you hit the like button, you stop another Democratic inquiry.
it's true.
Pinot is love. Pinot is life. And
And we disavow
what is Pinot? I don't know.
Pinochet.
Is that a drink? Is that a
Augusto,
champagne?
Augusto, Augusto Pinochet.
No
When he,
idea.
that's where the throwing commies out of helicopters thing.
Oh, that. No.
Yeah,
Yeah. Uh, you know. Yeah, I get it.
yeah.
Okay, I'm not thrilled. So, John, you've had a pretty good week. Anything exciting happen besides 3 hours spent wishing you could find a faster way to get your information off your phone?
It actually wasn't that bad. It just took forever. No, we just went over to the bar that was there, and I had a whiskey. So altogether, it
Okay,
was pretty
okay,
good. But
okay. So now I begin to understand
I was
that
waiting
it
for this
was.
shit to.
Yes, you were waiting
I
at
was
a
waiting.
bar with fucking
Yeah,
whiskey. I don't want to hear
yeah.
your. I don't want.
I had
No,
one.
no,
I had
no.
one
Yeah,
whiskey.
I'm done with you. I'm
This is
done
my
with you.
second
I'm
whiskey
done with you.
for
I'm
today.
done with you. I'm done. I know the truth now. I understand. I understand now. Everything is crystal clear now. You were withholding information, and when you do that, John, you don't really give the
Yeah.
whole story.
No shit.
Um,
Really.
yeah. So I'll just go ahead and tell you this, and this is something you need to learn about your technology. Smart usage
Ugh.
is usage. Whenever you're using the device and how you store things makes the entire transfer of information so much easier. I mean, there's a cloud for a reason, John.
Oh, you done? Okay.
No. Yes.
Yeah, no, I know. I fucked up last time I got a phone too. I didn't learn from my mistakes from the last time.
Yeah,
In fact, the
it's
last
just
time I lost my entire meme stash. That was horrible, and I had to
it's the
beg
same.
for others to give me memes,
Yeah, well, that's
and
because
then I had to start collecting them again.
you make the mistake of keeping them on your phone.
Well, where else would I keep them?
Not on your phone, because guess what? Phones break. Keep them somewhere else where thou requires two
Should I
things to
really
break.
have? You're right. I should get like a terabyte external hard drive and just fill that with memes.
Those cost like $3 now. So yeah, that's
Yeah, they're
you
really
can
not that
get it on a
expensive.
little jump drive. I mean, what's your point, John? Yeah, this is simple technology, and you use it
Nah,
properly.
nah. Sounds
Yeah,
gay.
does it? Yeah,
Yeah, it
I
does.
love it. Hey, John, anything? Did you notice anything was going on this week? Things have been happening this week. Have you been around? Do you know anything going on?
Some stuff has happened, I'm sure. I haven't really paid too much attention to it. Um,
Now, why
I
do you
know
think that is?
Blizzard has done a bunch of shit that's kind of fucked up.
Well, they pulled out of a game demonstrate
Nintendo's,
a,
yeah,
for Overwatch, wasn't it?
I think so,
Or
maybe, yeah,
whatever the game was, and they pulled out of that. And they said they weren't going to do it. Nintendo's like, okay, whatever. What else? There was some retraction of the penalties against the you
yeah.
know, but is that not that's not good enough? Of course,
Hell no, that's not good enough.
it's never good enough, right?
No,
Nothing
no, no,
will
no,
ever
no, no,
be
no.
good enough.
Because they only issued the apology because all the backlash against them. That was it. They didn't give a fuck. If
So
no one had said anything, they wouldn't have backtracked. They didn't think they did anything wrong. They just backtracked because they had to.
okay, so is it really surprising that is it still that surprising when you look at what's going on with China and with trade with China and the product density that we get from China and the user base possibilities in China? Is it really so surprising that so many companies would capitulate to their idea of global diplomacy?
Um, is it surprising? No. Is it smart long term? Absolutely not. Unless they plan on just being a Chinese company. Because I mean, they're going to lose everyone here. If they
I,
want to sell exclusively to China, then I guess they could do that. But
I mean, the most important
fucking a.
resource in this world is money. It is by far the most important thing. Even we as humans, I just said something to Tinchy about this off mic in Discord. Money is more important to us than breathing and food and water because
Money is what buys food
we've
and
gotten
water,
to,
I guess.
and it's very close to being what's going to buy our air too. I mean,
Yeah, like in Spaceballs where it was
yeah,
canned.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
when you consider this idea that to have the basic things that we need to survive, we need something to get those things anymore. Um, even living off the grid is not that easy anymore. I mean,
It's also illegal.
yeah, it's hard to be legal anymore.
Yeah.
And just so money, yeah, money. So it's not surprising to me that these companies are capitulating. Airlines. I mean, how much money do airlines make off of travel into and out of China? You
I
know,
can't believe they're allowed to go into and out of China.
why? China's an ally.
Mm, are they?
Yes.
Are they really?
Are they part of NATO?
I don't think so. They're part of
Yeah.
the UN,
Or
no?
the UN? They're part of the UN. Aren't
Yeah,
they part of NATO as well?
that wouldn't make any
Aren't they one of the
sense.
big seven in NATO?
NATO is the North Atlantic Treaty Organization.
Oh, I guess they don't qualify, do they? Well, Trump wants Russia in NATO. Does he? Do they qualify
I mean,
as?
maybe they changed the rules or something. I don't
Well,
know.
I'm
I
just
don't know
saying. I
anything
mean,
about NATO.
the name is the name is what it's always been. But I don't know.
Doesn't mean it's going to
Does
be
it still
exclusive with
apply to
those
those?
countries. Yeah.
Right. But anyway, it's China's not a small deal when it comes to these economic standpoints. It's not surprising to me. I mean, it's just not. And yeah,
It's not surprising, no, but I just think it's very short-sighted.
how?
Well, I mean, unless, like I said, unless they want to be exclusively selling to China, because
I
they're
mean,
going to lose at least most of their sales here
yeah,
eventually. Not immediately, right? But if they
th-
keep doing things like that, yeah,
they'll
people are going to get
lose.
sick of it.
They'll lose some, but there's so many people that don't care about what the makers of a product are doing.
Yeah, no, it's
They
true.
don't. They don't care about the cultural or diplomatic or global impacts that companies have. All they
I mean, to
care
be
about is
fair,
that their product is still coming.
I haven't given money to Blizzard in a long ass time.
But
What's the
that had
last
nothing
Blizzard
to do
game I
with their
got?
politics.
Like StarCraft 2, I think was the last
But how
time I
much?
gave Blizzard money.
But that didn't have anything to do with their politics. That was just
No,
you
no.
just kind of drifted
I
away
wanted
from.
the game.
Yeah,
Yeah, I just did away from anything Blizzard, really.
yeah. It was just one of those things. I mean, I mean, it's not like you're beholding to the company anyway, right?
Yeah. I'm
You
not
can
loyal
it's
to
a
them,
give or
no.
take. If they had this phenomenal game, your politics probably aren't going to figure into it too
I mean,
much.
it would now.
It
It would
might,
now.
it
It would
might,
now.
but I mean, it is what it is. It's people are going to still buy the product. The moral outrage is one thing. Sure, it gets some change. Sure, Blizzard backed down on some of the decision. They didn't make it all go away. They didn't stand up and say, "Well, fuck China," because you just can't do that. I mean,
Yeah.
12% player base in China is a lot of people.
I mean, I'll say it. Fuck China.
But
There you go.
it's, when you're thinking from an
More like fuck the
economics,
Chinese government. I have nothing wrong, nothing against the
right.
Chinese people, just their government.
Well, I mean, so from an economic standpoint, if, say, we could garner, even 10% viewer base out of China,
Why?
that's a huge number, right? So
I mean,
economically
not for
speak,
us. It's
well,
fine.
I mean, if we had a viewer base that was 10% of the Chinese population and they're 1.5 billion people, that's a,
Yeah, but 10% of 10% of China.
yeah, that's what I'm
Oh, I
talking
thought you were
about.
saying. I thought you were saying like 10% of our viewer base would be Chinese.
No,
I'd be like, what? So yeah, so 10% of 10 is one. Like that's not
right.
a big deal, you
No,
know.
no, 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 no. No, I'm talking about China. So whenever somebody says, 12% of our gamer base is out of China, that's a large chunk of people. I mean, it's something that you have to think about from an economic standpoint. And when you say they're short-sighted, I can understand that to a certain extent. But I would counter with the fact that this is something that China has been laying the groundwork for well over 30 years.
Yeah.
Buying into corporate America, buying into the American infrastructure, replicating, duplicating, expanding upon, and changing the rules of commerce and trade, just by their actions, by the different things that they've done over the years. And they're so ingrained in our economy, and this has been intentional.
Oh
So,
yeah.
so when you say somebody's short-sighted, well, it's it's kind of hard to play a short-sighted game knowing you're playing with a long-sighted opponent.
Well,
You know
yeah,
what I
you
mean?
be thinking long term instead of short term.
Well, that's what I'm saying, and
I mean,
so
all they should do is just tell them to get fucked and not take their money,
yeah, but
and then
that's
they have
that
no economic power.
but that's
I'm not
long.
saying just Blizzard. I'm saying other companies obviously as well need
Sure, but
to.
that's long-term negative repercussions. I
I don't
mean,
think so. I think that's
I'm
a big market for people in America wanting to buy things that are made in America for
you can't,
Americans. I
but you
mean,
can't, but you can't. Yeah, and Trump promised that that was going to happen, and we're still waiting on that to happen. How much manufacturing has been running back to America?
I don't
You
have the
know,
numbers,
right?
but I know it was more though. I
Yeah,
know it was
it's
more
not
than
much more. I
previous.
mean, and people have been like, "Oh, we were." There's been times where GM didn't. They were like, "Oh, we were going to build a plant, but we decided not to now
Yeah.
because Trump made it difficult." There were this, that, and the other.
Well, that's what he said he was going to do. Yeah.
But
He said it was going to make it worth it more to stay here than it is to go
sure,
elsewhere.
but that was the thing. They were going to build it here, and it was, and Trump wasn't making it
Oh, I see what
worthwhile
you're
for
saying.
them to build the plant here, so they nixed it. That's what I'm talking about. It's not been
Nixing
easy
it.
for manufacturing to come back to America, and it hasn't been coming back in the way that he presented it would. Um, but when you talk about things that are that are going to be driven by a user base, so take an airline. I mean, so if the airline is doing 10-15% of their business is out of China, that's a lot of fucking people, a lot of fucking flights out of China. And you can't replace that with 10 to 12% more business out of America because you're already competing with other airlines for American travel. And now you have an entire destination that's no longer there. So 12% of your travel to a country, I mean, these numbers get hard to factor in when the opposite reaction could just be call Taiwan a province on the map.
Yeah, no, I understand. Yeah.
That's why I say it's, these decisions have to be made from a very high level,
Yeah.
in a company, and you got to make the tough decision that's not going to be popular. But, the upside, so for instance, you take the airlines, if your top 10 airlines all do the same thing, well, you don't really have to worry about losing your user base so much. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? The competition is doing the exact same thing. Blizzard, on the other hand, yeah, they're gonna take a hit. They're gonna have some repercussions from this. But if they stick true to the past and can find some new model, some new something game wise, something that will make people will forget. I mean, how many
Yeah.
people sit around and still don't go to Chick-fil-A because they spoke out about homosexual?
A lot of people don't. In fact, they keep bringing it back up. In fact, they brought it back up recently. I forget what they did. They did something. Oh fuck! What was it? If Michael Vegas still in the chat, tell us. Or if anyone else is lurking, let us know. Because they did something.
About firing a
Oh
homosexual?
no no no! It was they gave money to like an organization, an NGO that helped sponsor or helped like do something about the like Ugandan like death to homosexuals bill, like basically where they can execute homosexuals
Uh-huh.
in Uganda. So that was something that yeah, I don't know if that's 100% true. I don't know if that's actually what happened, but that's what was being said. So they've actually been out recently talking about uh, Chick-fil-A's supposed anti-gay agenda. So I
I
mean, it is still brought up quite a bit.
Well, I mean, of course, you give somebody a bone, they will gnaw on it occasionally. They'll pull it out of the closet and chew it up in the press for a little bit, and they'll look for things. Granted, but I
Yeah, I mean,
haven't,
honestly,
nothing
I
really
boycott.
damning that like I'm hearing this talk of boycott Chick-fil-A again, and they're
Oh,
ranking
well, I
pretty
mean,
high
yeah,
as still one of the top fast food chains out there.
yeah. I mean, I boycott Chick-fil-A just because I hate waffle fries. That's the only reason. I don't
Yeah,
care about their politics. I just
that's
can't
a
stand waffle fries. It's an abomination upon the Lord.
it's a
I'm
pretty
telling you.
it's a pretty sad reason.
Yeah.
Michael
Hey, we
Vegas
got
says
we got
his
yeah. He said he's here, but he didn't answer the question I
well, no,
wanted
he
to
says
answer.
my city ban denied Chick-fil-A to be built in
Mm,
our airport, and the governor is suing the city. Um,
nice. Hey,
yeah,
we
we
got
got
Stephen Ignoramus in the chat and Cameron Michael in the chat as well,
and
and Blind Fear Baby Boy. Holy
blind
shit,
fear
we're starting to
baby boy. He's
finally picking
lurking.
up.
So Anyway, I don't know. I'm not. I'm curious. To me, it's more Schadenfreude. I'm waiting to see what BlizzCon is going to be like. See how many Pooh Bears. If
Yes.
they get a statistic on this, it'll be great
Yeah,
to see.
like I mentioned in our private Discord, not the Gen Gap one, that Jeremy Two Dads Hambly is going to be there, going as Winnie the Pooh, and he's like 6'7", so that's going to be pretty hilarious because he's massive.
Right. And just
I
FYI,
can't wait to see him get kicked out and stuff. It'll be good. He'll probably get
your
punched again too.
your
No, I'm joking.
uh, your your take on waffle fries is not the most popular opinion. Just FYI,
I don't care.
I think you're
I don't.
you're a very small minority and should not be vocal. Uh, when you
Like,
hey,
okay, when you find out there's a private Discord with a broken heart.
nice,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
only for my IRL friends.
yeah,
I mean, Stephen Ignoramus isn't in it.
yeah.
No, Big Edgar's not in it. Like,
We
nobody. Just
don't
people that I know
we
IRL.
don't just
That's it.
let anybody in. Like
Yeah,
it's only people that we see on a weekly basis.
Midget B is in it, but only the
Well,
people I know
actually, but
IRL.
we see him not on a weekly
I think
basis, but
Cameron's in it too. I think
yeah,
Cameron's
but
in
we
it.
see him almost every week. But we do
Yeah,
still see Midget on a regular enough basis for him to count as an IRL friend.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Hertz and Libertarian, nice.
But yeah,
Uh,
it's only very few people. There's like 5 people in it, something like that. It's very, very. Oh
six
no,
of us. I think
1, 2,
there's six or
3, 4,
seven.
5, 6, 7, 8 total.
Oh, yeah,
8 total people. Yeah, those are the only people who are allowed in that Discord.
and only like seven of them are active. Um,
Yeah, I'm
um,
the one that's not. I'm barely in it.
One other thing that
Oh no.
did happen this week, and it pisses me off, John, that you're telling me that you really didn't watch it. Um, fucking
Well,
bad.
maybe
I
you can
don't
fix
live. It's not Michael. It's
that. Calm down. It's
it's
okay.
it's 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 not you. It's us.
Yeah.
It's not you. You're a great guy. It's us. So anyway, what do you expect from people in Florida? I mean, seriously.
Yeah. We're both lucky we don't have meth mouth. We easily
Right,
could.
right. I mean, we're actually talking about how going and wrestling an alligator after the show tonight. I mean, come on. I
I mean,
mean,
I had to wrestle one on the way back here. It was fucking ridiculous.
right.
Yeah.
That
It was
was
a little one though, so it was
that was
alright.
an alligator clip, John.
Oh.
All right. So one thing that did happen this week that a few people watched was the Democratic debate.
Hmm.
You said you didn't really get much of a chance to watch it, which pisses me off because you could have gone back and watched it
Yeah.
in
That would have
hindsight.
involved giving CNN views and
Whatever, you could have found it anywhere after the fact. So I don't
yeah.
want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. So you did not do your due diligence, but I have to say that it was an interesting debate. There was some good back and forth. A few people is accurate. For me, I have to say that there were standouts in this one. I wasn't thrilled with Uncle Joe at all, by the way. He did not do
He
any.
didn't perform well, I heard, yeah.
No, and Booker. Oh my God! Booker's. I swear to God, at multiple times, I would glance over at the screen and I would see Cory Booker and I would think his eyes are going to fly out of his head at some point. They're
Yeah.
just going to fly out. Pow! Boom! Don't sneeze, brother. Don't sneeze.
And he's got the one wandering eye that kind of just goes
Right?
off
It's
in his own
like, are you
direction.
looking at are you
And then when you're
moderators or
talking
the
to him,
camera?
and then when you're talking to him, which eye do you look at?
Right. Oh, see, I would ask. I'm the person that actually will ask you
You
which
would,
eye do
yeah.
I look. It's not. I find it the most appropriate thing so that we don't have some confusion. Hey, which eye is the one that I look at? I have asked that question. I've got a straightforward answer, and it works. Uh,
Yeah.
but I will say Elizabeth Warren tried to come out, tried to make make a case. I felt like she got shut down a lot. She was the one that people were able to debunk a little more easily. Although she was called out for correctly diagnosing the problem. It was just her solutions weren't as well received.
Yeah.
But Tulsi Gabbard, she stood out. I thought she was very eloquent. She was very well spoken. She was on point. When it's all said and done, because also I believe Andrew Yang made an appearance. Andrew Yang showed up to this one a
Hmm.
little stronger than he has at any of the previous ones, and he was laying down, he was his Yangisms. He was putting it out there, and he was answering questions. They asked him more direct
Hmm.
questions this time than either of the others. But one thing that was interesting, Tulsi Gabbard at one point did say that she agreed with Andrew Yang about a UBI. And I thought, and somebody else did as well during the debate. I just can't remember who it was offhand, but that goes to relevance. But my thought is, okay, who else is going to get on board with a UBI as they look at it and consider it more, and it becomes more of a policy position to take note of? Because the automation conversation was very vivid this time around. They put questions about automation to everybody, to where they had to come up with some answers. They had to talk about it. At one point, Elizabeth Warren is talking about a 2% luxury tax or whatever it is, basically tax the rich. And she's like, I want to look at the data. I want to see this and find reasonable answers. And Andrew Yang's like, I've got the data. And he's like, I've got the data. I've been looking at it. But the other one is Bernie. Man, Bernie was there. He was
Yeah,
there, and he was happening. I was really thrilled with Bernie.
yeah, he did
You.
surprisingly well, despite, at least in the clips that I saw, despite having just had a heart attack. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
That's yeah. I mean that's impressive. I'll give it to him for that, even though obviously I completely disagree with the things he says. But I'll give him that he's got spirit. He's got the ability to come back after that and be as fiery as he was.
Yeah, it was. I thought it was interesting. Again with Yang, he made it a point to contend against specific people this time around. He pointed out. He cut in a few times. I'd like to respond to something Senator Warren just said, cutting somebody
Hmm.
else, stepping on other people who were trying to speak. It's like he hasn't done this, right?
Right. He was too
Previously.
polite.
Yeah. So, but he was wearing this time out. He instead of wearing a presidential pin, which he's like, it's sometimes he sees that as a little bit showy, hypocritical, whatever.
Hmm.
But he wore a math pin to
Hmm.
the debate. It's very prominent on his lapel. I thought was interesting, and of course, no tie. But one of the things that Yang did was today. He did a 10-hour question and answer
Yeah.
set up online.
But before we get into that, though, I just want to address what Cameron's saying there in the chat. He's
I
asking,
don't
"Is he
like
part of
Cameron.
the Halloween spectacular?" Don't be mean to Cameron.
I
He's
don't
nice.
like him. He's
Um,
he's
but Cameron, make your case. Uh, why should you be part of it? What are you going to bring to the table? Make your case, and we'll consider it. Stephen Ignoramus is saying, "Sorry, catching up on 2x speed. You didn't miss anything. It's all right."
yeah. The only thing
Just my
is
rant against waffle fries, and that's about it. I guess, and I got a new phone. Not that exciting.
so. There have been some. There were I started going through on Reddit a lot of the trying to go through questions that he was being asked, and the reason mainly I wanted to find out. Um, I wanted to look and see how many people actually took the time to talk to him about the UBI and how it equates when we start talking about the VAT tax, which I know you're against. Rage Against the Waffle Fries is John's favorite band.
I don't like that name, Rage Against the Waffle Fries.
Cameron says he's gay. Expand our viewer base. I disagree that he's gay.
I'm not interested in equal representation. I
Yeah, I don't
mean,
think
whoever wants to
gay
watch the show
factors
can
in.
watch. If they're gay, that's fine. If they're not, that's fine too. If they
I
want to
don't.
watch, they watch. If they don't, they won't.
I
I don't
can't.
care
I
about
can't give into
preference.
your. I can't give into these identity politics. That
Yeah.
that can't be the reason to have him on.
Also, I thought you were pansexual. He likes pans and not pots though.
He's identifying as what he thinks is most popular. That's the problem with these kids these days. No.
And no, Michael Vega, Robert's enough big gay for me. I don't need any more. No, I mean, no, I like Cameron. He's cool. But Steven said you don't like waffle fries and
See,
Scrubs.
John, you're a minority. You're a minority,
I
and
know.
I strongly recommend that you become
Listen, just because an idea is popular doesn't make it right. All right.
it's not popular.
No, I'm saying your idea of waffle fries being good is the
That's
popular one.
that's not no, and that's not even my idea. I mean,
No,
you
he
know,
says it wrong.
their popularity has been around. You know, John, you are a minority. You're a minority in this. The
Well,
waffle
that means I'm
fries.
oppressed. That means I'm oppressed, and you need to give me a platform to speak on. Speak about my oppression, about these waffle fries.
It sounds more like depression, and you're bringing us all down.
Nope, waffle fries are shit.
All right, so
They're an abomination upon the Lord and all humans, and most species of monkeys as well.
all right, so here's a question that was asked to him, and I'll read the question and I'll read his response, and then I'll get your response on this. One of the most common criticisms of a VAT is value-added tax is one of the ways he proposes to generate money for the UBI, especially from the progressive wing of the party, is that it's regressive. Why wouldn't this negatively affect lower-income Americans, and why do you believe it's the best way to pay for a UBI? And the response was, a VAT is a very efficient tax that is used by just about every developed country in the world right now, including Denmark, Sweden, France, and other countries, and is regarded as super progressive. It can be tailored to exempt, say, consumer staples and fall more heavily on luxury goods. The key is to give ourselves a way to benefit from the super efficiencies of the 21st century economy, because our corporate tax system will not do it. Super progressive countries use a VAT and then do all sorts of great things with it. We should do the same, including putting buyer power directly into our hands. All right, so starting with that.
So hang on, because the chat's still on the waffle fry thing, and I want to address something there. Cameron says waffle fries are bad. Expected heresy from a libertarian. Fair enough. I mean, if it's heretical, it's heretical. But those are my beliefs. Michael Vega says, "What are your favorite fries? Mine are skinny ones with paprika." Checkers fries, or either or Rallies, depending on what area you're in. But Rallies or Checkers, they have the best fries on the planet.
Okay, so those fries that you get from Checkers and or Rallies, I am willing to bet you is the same exact company that makes the curly fries and the French fries for Arby's.
Curly fries are fucking amazing, and so yeah, curly fries are awesome too.
Curly fries are just waffle fries with antisocial issues.
No, they're not waffly. They're curly.
Right. They just couldn't handle making the full waffle. They could have. They're in strings. They could have made a waffle. They opted for
You could probably
schizophrenic
uncurl
girls.
it and make waffle
But
fries with a few of the fries. I don't think so. No, it's a
but you
total
can't.
difference.
I think you can't call out a specific company. See, waffle fries. Find me another fast food place that has waffle fries. But
Another fast food place? I don't think so.
right.
Not that I know of.
But those fries you get from Checkers and Rallies, I'll get you those at Arby's. I'll get you those at a Jack in the Box. Yeah, they're just a common.
Yeah, see, I can compromise with Steven there. Curly fries from Arby's, that's a good one. I would be willing to get curly fries.
Yeah, the problem with curly fries from Arby's is so hard to find an Arby's that doesn't screw up and like break the curls down too much.
It's too hard to find an Arby's in general.
Oh, I got
There's
two
one
within
like
quick
2
driving
towns
distance.
away.
Yes.
Yeah, there's one like 2 towns away.
But that's for you suburban folks.
Yeah.
For us urban dwellers, there's an Arby's right over there, and there's an Arby's right over there.
I haven't had Arby's in a very long time.
Well, then you have no room to talk. Obviously, it's
Still
not
like
worth
them.
it's not worth the
Well, no, it's
the
not.
expense to go to it. I don't hear it. Crybaby stuff is what it is. But John, you are wrong. It is true. You're wrong. Waffle fries, you're just wrong about them,
Nope.
and that's that. I don't care what you think your favorite is. Waffle fries are the shit.
They are not. They're an abomination.
Are they?
They should be stoned to death, in fact.
So here's the question.
Yeah.
If Chick-fil-A served a traditional fry as well, would you eat at Chick-fil-A more?
Yeah.
because that chicken's damn good, isn't it?
Yeah, they make a good chicken sandwich.
They do. Oh,
Really.
I don't even eat their chicken sandwich. I don't like their bread, but I love their chicken tenders. I'll dip
Fuck
those in
out of here.
sauce and nosh on those all day.
Fuck out of here.
Hey, you know what? I don't have to like their bread. You know, bread's bread. Subjective. Waffle fries? Not subjective.
Not subjective.
Not subjective.
I disagree.
Because you can't just say waffle fries are waffle fries. There's not enough waffle fries out there to make that.
I'm sure you can find them at the grocery store or something. Those little, those big 10-pound bags or something. I don't know.
The chat knows I'm
They're
right.
shit.
The chat knows I'm
Chat
right.
is shit too.
Oh,
Yeah, you heard me. Fight me, chat.
I disavow. I'll pull the disavow card on that one. You did not hear that from me, chat. I love you people.
I don't know. They can't see your mouth, so maybe you did say it.
It's
Maybe
people
you're a
like you.
ventriloquist.
Oh no, they know your voice, John.
Yeah, you do really good impressions.
Everybody knows my smooth melodic tones.
Yeah.
Mm.
Anyway, let's get back to Yang's VAT question.
So anyway, VAT tax. You disagree that it works in other countries?
It's not that it doesn't work. It's that it takes even more money from your paycheck that you make, which in turn, of course, gives you more money. That gives the government more money for benefits. But at the same time, the more that you take from from people, that doesn't take it directly from the paycheck, right? It's it's a sales tax basically.
Right.
But
Okay.
yeah. But the thing is, no. But you still have to pay the VAT tax everywhere you go.
Okay.
And what that does is takes more money from you, right? You're spending more money on a certain whatever thing you're buying, and it goes to benefits for the most part, which of course you wouldn't need if you weren't having so much of your money taken. So it kind of creates this vicious cycle of dependency on the state, and that's what I have a problem with.
Okay, so there's an argument that a lot of the VAT tax would get passed to the consumer, right? But one of the things that he mentions and talks about is that it is it's customizable. You can target specific goods with your VAT tax. You can target specific things.
Yeah, that doesn't make it better.
Okay, so if you're targeting something that typically is only being bought by the wealthy, how is that going to be passed on to the middle class American? So if you're targeting things in that realm, which is where he wants to get money from, is of course the big
That's
corporations.
What he says, and that's what he says, and that's how it starts. But that doesn't mean that I won't.
Okay, so you're just I got you. So you're just this is speculation. It's speculation.
No, I'm against it on principle because of that. Taxes don't just stop. Like you don't just say, okay, that's enough taxing. No, it continuously gets more and more because it's never enough.
So here's so when arguing for or against a VAT, some perspective from Germany. Differentiation between luxury goods and staples will never be clear. It has been an ongoing discussion in German politics why some things are taxed at 7% and others at 19%. Milk and mineral water are taxed at 7%, other beverages are not. If you go to McDonald's, they will ask if you wish to consume it at their premise or have it to go. If you eat it in the restaurant, you pay 19% tax. If it's to go, they pay 7% because it's food. The list is endless.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is the list is endless.
But other countries. So someone says in Sweden, we don't differentiate takeout from eating in terms of VAT. It's much easier. Sounds like you've made it harder than it needs to be. So each place appears, like he was saying, appears to approach it in different ways. So you're ultimately the basic premise of the VAT tax is flawed in your mind, though, because it varies, and so you're saying it varies enough from the fair tax that it wouldn't be beneficial.
I don't. It's not that it wouldn't be. No, I don't think it would. Long term, it wouldn't be beneficial. I think in the short term, it would raise a lot of money very quickly, but I don't think that it's sustainable in the long term, because you have to continuously tax more and more, because our spending goes more and more. And our spending is always going to be more because we always need another, another benefit. It's another entitlement. Something else. There's always got to be, well, these people demand free this, these people demand free that. Just stop it at the source and just say no, we're not doing that. That's where I'm coming from with it.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's what, and that's what somebody else made the argument that 10, 20, 30 years down the road, someone will increase the VAT tax and start spreading
Hmm.
out the taxes more and more. And it's understandable, I guess.
And then eventually you just don't need
Um,
a paycheck anymore because everything's free, but you have to work in order to get your benefit card and be able to get all the free stuff. You know what I mean? So then you're essentially a slave to the state. That's the end goal of it, at least. Whether it's intentional or not, that's the logical conclusion to this sort of thing.
One thing that he was asked was about identity politics. He says, while Asian Americans, the question was, while Asian Americans are the fastest growing and fourth largest racial group today, voting turnout continues to trend at a historically low rate. How do you plan to engage with and mobilize the Asian American electorate without resorting to identity politics? Which is one thing that I've questioned with him, is whether or not he was going to, if that was going to start factoring in the further along
Hmm.
in his candidacy. But he says, I'm excited to say that I think this is happening organically, but I'm very happy to spend time with people in the Asian American community because I think activating our community politically is very important for the country and can be one of
God,
the
I hate
positive
that
impacts of
verbiage.
the. Right. It's very,
Activating the
right.
community. Like, because exactly, we're just fucking NPCs to them. That's what I'm saying. It's just fucking ridiculous. Just
Um,
turn them on. All right, Jones, go do the things I want you to do. Oh my god.
but one of his supporters, people also posted, said to add on to this, with a policy for everyone that would help Asian Americans, he wants automatic voter registration, making voting day a national holiday so that everyone can participate, as well as potentially having mobile voting. Uh, that's not a horrible idea. I'm surprised that the presidential election voting day, or even the what is it, the midterms, isn't a holiday where everybody
I
gets the
don't
day
think
off from
you.
work.
I don't think you need to make it a holiday. I'm not necessarily against that. I just don't think it's necessary because there's a lot of other options for voting other than going to the poll. Now, if you wanted to do, having polls open later, or if there's mail-in ballots, that sort of thing. But I think there's another way too. I can't think of it at the top now. But I usually do mail-in ballots. Whether you think you can trust that or not, you can decide that for yourself. But I don't trust voting for the most part anyway. But so I don't think there's much of a difference between mailing it in and having it in a big box at some polling place is still just as unsafe there as
Well,
anywhere.
sure, it's all open to corruption, but when it's all said and done, John, I mean, and this is not uncommon to hear. I've been hearing this. You hear this constantly over the years. Um, is people that didn't go out and vote because they just couldn't get away from work. They didn't have time. They couldn't make the time to get away and go do it. Which stands to reason, if it was a recognized holiday, and yes, companies could still be open, and but people had the opportunity to just take the day off from work and focus on voting. I bet you we would get a lot more voter turnout if people knew that
Hmm.
they had a day, that there was nothing going to prevent them from going to vote, other than familial duties, family stuff, whatever. But you could make the time because you didn't have to be at work. It'd be like Christmas, but with an important outcome.
So yeah, like I said, I'm not completely against the idea of making voting day a holiday, but at least a federal holiday. First of all, I wouldn't have it off off of work. If it's not mandatory, I wouldn't have it off. But I understand why a lot of people would, and I do think that you would have more voter turnout, but I just don't think it's necessary. Like I said,
Well, I mean, even like you said, you wouldn't have it off, but I mean, even if you knew that you had the ability to work half a day and then take the last half of
so
your
I
day
wouldn't.
to off and go vote,
Yeah,
because
my job doesn't work like that, but
well, no, but I mean, this would be a situation where it's a national holiday. When it comes to national holidays, something
yeah,
like this, you would
I pretty
probably have
much
more.
get I pretty much get Easter and Christmas off for holidays. I'm trying to think. Yeah, that's basically and New Year's Day, but that's only because that's National Hangover Day, and my boss knows that if we showed up that day, then we wouldn't get any work done, or at least enough. So
Well, are you, but you're an active voter, right?
yeah, I voted in the last. I didn't vote for the second Obama term, and I wasn't old. No, I was old enough for the first one, but I didn't vote in that one either because I didn't care. And I didn't vote in the second one. I voted to the last two, the midterms and the president, the most recent presidential.
John, you got to get out there and rock the vote, sir.
I'm doing it now. There's nothing I can do about the past ones. Yeah, I voted Gary Johnson. Seawall saying you voted for Trump. Yeah, I voted for Gary Johnson because I didn't like, I didn't like Trump at the time, and I definitely didn't like Hillary. So I just went with Gary Johnson, threw my vote away.
Well, it's interesting that, I mean, we're still in a day and age where a company, a boss can tell his employees, you can't leave, you can't take a long lunch, you can't do this, that, and the other on voter day. And easily do it because their political beliefs lean one way, and if they have a feeling that X number of people in their office are going to vote one way or the other, opposite them, they can just kind of, enforce the rules. No long lunches, breaks specific times, no leaving early today, these kind of things. It sucks that capability is still there in our present day society, especially as how it impacts voting, that kind of thing. So the national holiday thing, I like it from the standpoint that it would give people more of a feeling of the right to vote. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess
because
so.
when you take the ability to vote away, it kind of feels like you're taking the right to vote away as well.
See, but that's the thing is, again, it doesn't take the right to vote away.
I
Like I said,
understand.
the mail-in ballot
I
until like
didn't
2 weeks
say it did.
before.
I,
No, no, I'm just saying
I
like
said the feel
doesn't
word,
make
John.
because I know, no, I know, but it's like people don't know where their polling locations are. Like those are always like a lot of arguments for why people don't turn up and vote. Well, you don't have to go somewhere to vote. You know what I mean? You can just mail your ballot in. You know what I mean? You don't have to worry
Yeah,
about like voter suppression, these kind of things that people talk about all the time.
but don't you have to? I
You know?
think don't you have to register for that so that it gets sent to you? I mean, or I'm trying to remember because I always get the sample ballots, but I don't know that I get one that I could mail in. I don't know if I regularly get that unless the sample ballot is one that you're supposed to use to mail in. I thought you had to specifically request a mail or
Yeah,
vote
you
in
do.
ballot.
Yeah, yeah,
So, yeah, so you still have to go through a process to get that mailer, right? To get that.
yeah.
So it's six on
But
one,
it's
half a dozen.
easy.
Yeah, well,
I mean,
is
it's
it?
easy though.
Is it? And then again, of course, it falls to trust. So
Yeah,
Seawall says
absentee
those
ballots as
those
well.
who contribute should decide the course of the nation. If y'all really want voting to work, we need vid chats to the redacted ears of our city states.
Hmm.
So it's not very libertarian. Absentee ballot, eat my ass.
Vid
Well,
kits. Fair enough.
now I am a strong proponent of candidates with no party affiliation. In fact, candidates blacked out for the first for up until the primaries that you don't even see who they are. They'll do it like those people that want to protect their identity as they do some whistleblowing or unfold evidence in a police case and just keep them blacked out, change their voice, and all
Hmm.
you hear is their policies. All you
Yeah.
hear is what they stand for and what they believe in. You don't see and hear who it is, and then you go and vote blind on what you've heard from the candidate that you like. And then when it's all said, okay, here's who you picked. Here's who everybody picked. And
Yeah.
it's like, ta-da! Is it a boy or a girl? Um,
That
you know,
would be kind of cool. Yeah, I'd be down for not knowing who it is, just their.
Wouldn't that be some
policy
shit?
until, of course, the general election. Then you
Well,
might
sure, the general
know who the
election,
fuck you're
because
voting for.
of course you've typically got an incumbent. You've often got an incumbent president, so you know who that is. But when it comes to the races, so like if there is no incumbent president, yeah, all the Republicans, all the Democrats, you just hear people putting policies out there, and you hear what they want to do. You don't know what party they're from, who they are. You don't see shit, don't hear shit, just that, and then you go and vote. And we'll have them numbered. They'll be known by a number through the entire uh, you know, uh, what is it? The primary, the entire primary up until the election, and then we'll unveil them. Yeah, I think that would
So
work.
we have some questions about that. First off, Jake from Freedom Scoop saying that we've stolen his dreams. How dare us? We dare easily. Just popping to say hi while sitting in Taco Bell drive-thru. I ate Taco Bell at the mall when I was over there waiting for my new phone. Seawall says that is interesting, but how does that prevent lying since you can't look at the record of the candidate? Well, I mean, obviously that's why we said we reveal them during the general election so that you can.
Yes,
I can see why you might not pick somebody in the primary because of their record. So I guess that is kind of a hole there. I mean, it's not really a fleshed out idea, right? It's like kind of something that you just
right.
came up with,
Is
or
it?
you
Is it?
heard
Well,
about somewhere.
I've mentioned it before, but I haven't sat and worked out a hard line plan and approach to it because I'm thinking of I think of things like, okay, so yeah, identities can be leaked, but in a world of fake news,
Well, look at that.
nobody necessarily has to believe what. What are we looking at?
That's three of us having Taco Bell today. I had Taco Bell at the mall. Jake's about to have Taco Bell now, and Seawall had it for lunch. Crazy.
I've got a pack of Taco Bell hot sauce. I'll squirt that in my mouth, and I'll be one of the
Do
cool
it.
kids.
Do it right now.
Well, I don't have
I
it
want to see
handy,
it
John. Shut
on
up.
camera. I know where it is. It's in that fridge right behind you.
There's no Taco
Do
Bell
it.
sauce in there.
All right. No, I want you to drink a whole packet of hot sauce on the show right now. Do it.
I know
Do
you
it. Do
want,
it. Do it.
but as my elders used to say,
Hey, chat. Why
want
don't you
want in.
chant hot sauce or chant do it, something like
Yes,
that. Do it.
that's gonna
Do it.
prompt me, John.
Do it.
How many
Do it right
times have
now.
you ever got me to do something like this?
Do it.
What is your success
Do it.
ratio? What's your batting average on
Do it.
this? I believe it's
Do it.
0.
Do
No,
it.
I don't. I don't succumb to
Do
peer
it.
pressure. I don't do
Do
it.
it. I have no peers, so I can't be your peer. So do
Well,
it.
whatever you're doing is not
Do it.
working.
Do it.
Are you prepared to
Pussy.
say do it for the rest of the show?
Pussy.
If AOC is
Pussy.
anatomized and claims to be a centrist, then
See?
come general, her face pops up and starts spouting hard social beliefs, thus making one side lose what they voted for. Um, well,
Hot sauce, do it. The chat demands it.
whatever. Anyway, so when
Dude,
it's all said and
do it.
done,
I'm gonna get you to do it. Do it.
I like we said, it's not a hard and fast set up. Nobody was like, "Oh, here I have a plan. We're going to roll out and present to Congress." It was the start of a suggestion because I think that at the very beginning, party affiliation fucks with a candidacy in the very beginning. Once you know somebody's party affiliation, you immediately start. The party affiliation kills everything. I mean, Democrats, all these Democrats on stage during these debates, they're all idiots because they're Democrats on a witch hunt. They're just part of the Democratic machine, right? So, yeah, nobody's thrilling me. Boycott Rob until he does it. Hey, I'm all for boycott. In
Grab
fact,
spicy
we
lips.
can end the show on the boycott if you want.
BDS of Robert. I don't know what that means. What is BDS? I guess I'm stupid.
I don't know. Boycott.
Bad dumb shame. I don't know.
Wow, that was reaching,
Bad
and
dumb
that's
shit.
sad.
Bad dumb shit. He's calling you a big dumb shit. Maybe he's calling you a big dumb shit. Boycott, divest, and sanction. Got it. Yes, we would boycott, divest you, and sanction you.
Yeah.
I'm not moving on. Whatever you want to talk about, you can talk about, but I'm not moving on until you do it. Drink hot sauce. Live on the show.
What? What are we talking about? All right,
Talking
so
about you drinking hot sauce.
We moved, yeah, we've moved far enough along. So, but anyway, I just wanted to point out some of the things that Yang was. I suggest I'll try and get the link put in Discord or maybe in our description to this Q&A he did. He actually did it through multiple platforms. He did it in Reddit. He did it on his Yang 2020 Live website. He also did it on Twitter, and he was on YouTube for a while too. So he was all
Really?
over the place doing that. Which I
That's
thought was,
crazy.
yeah.
So wait, he was on YouTube. Did he eat an entire packet of hot sauce while he was there, perchance?
Actually, no, but
Oh,
he was asked
well, that's something that you
who
could
his
do
favorite
that he hasn't done.
who his favorite anime character was, and he said
Oh
Akira
God,
because he's old school.
I don't know who that is. I don't. I'm not a weeb. I'm sorry.
What
I'm actually
anime?
not sorry. Yeah.
Akira? You don't know who Akira is?
No, I don't. I'm not a weeb.
Wow, what is a weeb? I don't even know what a weeb is.
Yeah, you're a weeb. Probably.
Am I?
You would be.
I thought I was a boomer. Come on, get it right, John.
You can be more. You can be two things.
No, I can't.
Yeah. No. Yeah. You're at least three things. You're a boomer, a weeb, and a pussy because you won't eat hot sauce on the stream.
Uh, I can identify as a pussy because there was one important rule that I learned growing up. You are what you eat. So,
Seagull's gonna boycott both of us now because I said I'm not a weeb. Legalize weeb. I like that, Steven. Legalize weeb. Weeb should be illegal. Two bombs was not enough. Anime is trash. That's my response to that.
yeah.
But yeah, so everyone just boycott Robert because he won't
It
do
works for
something
me.
cool on the stream.
So
I
then,
would do it. I don't have any hot sauce near me, but I would do it if I could.
so
I don't care.
then I'll leave it to you, John, to segue in and pick up our next topic that you brought to the table at the last minute, as usual. Um, and that you wanted to talk about tonight.
Yeah, you're right, Seawall. It's worse. So I had to address that.
Did you? You had
I
to.
did. I had to.
So apparently, there's this idea out there that there's a libertarian to fascist pipeline.
Yeah. Now it used to be called the Libertarian to alt-right pipeline, but the alt-right is pretty much fucking dead. I mean, there's pretty much almost no alt-righters left. It's like Richard Spencer, and that's about it.
Well, is that because a lot of them are getting shut down, or?
No, it's just that they're abandoning it. I think they're abandoning him more than anything else, but that's a whole other topic. I'm not really super versed on it because I don't care about Richard Spencer. But
But that's individuals. But is the alt right?
Well, he's the one who coined the term. Richard Spencer coined the term alt right.
Okay, so whatever you want to call it. So that's the whatever pretty name somebody wants to put on it at the time. Those people aren't going away though. So whether you want to call it far right, alt right, right extremists, the groups, the individuals are not going away. Maybe some of the outspoken individuals don't have as much voice as they used to, or don't present their voice as much. But the loonies on the other side, they're not going away, right? Just like the far left isn't going away. I mean, it may be eating itself, but the far right is kind of eating itself in its own way. Just like, well, pretty much everybody is. Everybody's eating themselves. Even libertarians are eating themselves.
Yeah, they do. They tend to.
So, but this idea is that
the new right. Fair enough, Stephen. Yeah, he says the new right is a good name for what you're talking about.
Is it the new right?
I guess so. Yeah, and a lot of them were people like me who came from the left and went to the right. And yeah, Stephen personally identifies as cringe right, which is true. Yeah, I'll give you that.
So ultimately, if how I'm gaining an understanding of this is correct, it's this idea that libertarianism eventually evolves. This apathy. I'll use the term sparingly or loosely. Apathy towards what other people do. Like this idea, okay, it doesn't matter what people say. Well, it doesn't matter if a store wants to keep people out because they're not the proper race, or their sexuality, or whatever it is. That's freedom of association. That's just, it's okay. That it doesn't, that's fine. That's a libertarian mindset, right? Freedom of association.
Yeah, 100%.
But it's the idea that freedom of association is not, when you say it's okay for a business to not serve black people, then you're only one step away from being part of a group that says, let's get rid of black people.
No,
Let's
I wouldn't say that's true.
ostracize black people. Let's segregate
Right.
black
It'd be
people.
more likely to say, let's pass legislation that says you can't serve black people. It's different than getting rid of black people.
Well, right, but I
And
mean,
it is
we're
it's more than just a step from that, though.
sure. I jumped from
But
from there all the
yeah,
way to the farthest extreme, but
right.
it's basically saying that libertarian is a gateway into various
Yeah.
levels of this extremist thinking, or the right thinking,
See,
the right
I don't
thing.
think it's a gateway. No, I don't think it's a
Well,
gateway
but that's
because it's gonna.
right. That's the argument, though, right?
That's the argument I'm making, though. Right? Is that I don't think that that is accurate. That there's a libertarian to fascism pipeline or the new right or whatever. I don't think there's a pipeline there because there's completely different principles involved. So you'd have to completely abandon your libertarian principles in order to be, a far rightist or whatever. You know what I mean? Because it's like you would have to be willing to give the government an excessive amount of power, if not completely.
Sure. But what about the
And I can see what Sewell's saying there. He said there's a libertarian to conservative pipeline. I can kind of see that, only in that it's easier to be a conservative than it is libertarian because instead of saying, no, I know it's difficult, but we need to do this ourselves, with conservatism, you can say, well, I'll just let the government do it and get mad when they don't. You know
um,
what I mean? And I don't think that that's a good way to go, but I can see that step easily being made.
all right. So, are you familiar with the
And
name
yeah, they
Chris
do exist.
the
Sewell.
the name Christopher Cantwell?
I've heard the name.
Okay, so he said something, and he was talking about his shift from libertarianism. Okay, and he saw his conversion from libertarianism to the alt-right. He says as immigration became a leading news story in America and Europe, Lou Rockwell gave a talk titled "Open Borders Are an Assault on Private Property." From here, I decided to read Hans Hermann Hoppe's Democracy, the God That Failed. From these, I realized that the libertine vision of a free society was quite distorted. The society we sought actually would provide far more order and control than modern democratic governments do. It would encourage more socially conservative behavior and less compulsory association. Just when I thought I had everything figured out, I was once again reminded of my naivety.
Yeah, if you ever think that you have everything figured out, it's time to step out of your comfort zone there, because that's yeah, saying that anyone has everything figured out is pretty ridiculous. But uh, and also Stephen, real quick, made a really good point. It's kind of what I was saying, but he said it a little bit more eloquently. That a personal preference versus legislating it over the threat of force is a massive difference, and it
Sure.
makes all the difference in the world. Yeah.
Well, when we talk about, so we talk about this freedom of association.
Except for Seawall, he's got everything figured out.
Um, when we talk about this freedom of association, for instance, um, freedom of association can be looked at in two different ways. Freedom of association in the libertarian mindset says I have the freedom to deny association with somebody if I so choose,
hmm
right? But on the flip side, freedom of association can be interpreted to mean I have the freedom to associate with anyone that puts themselves in the public sphere. So,
hmm
i.e., a business, this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
So it's a duality to freedom of association that has to be addressed.
Right. Well,
And
it's consent. You have to have
right,
two consenting parties. I
sure.
mean, yeah,
And
absolutely.
then you fall into, okay, so to clarify it, then we have to look at legislation. Then we have to look at an overriding body, defining it and making it more clear.
Wait. How is that the case? Can you
Well,
go back a little bit or make
well,
the case, I guess?
if you can argue freedom of association from both sides, you can't kick me
Hmm.
out of your business because I have the freedom to associate with your business
No, you
versus.
absolutely can because it takes two parties to consent. You can't
Okay,
have one person consent and the other one doesn't.
right, and that's got to be spelled, but that's got to be spelled out. People need
Not
that.
really. I mean,
People, if legislation is any guide over the decades, it's shown that people need things spelled out.
I think it's pretty much understood. Like, if I invite you to my house and then you say, "Okay, yes, I'll come into your house," that's two-party consent to coming into my house. Now, if I say, "I don't want you in my house anymore, you need to leave," I'm withdrawing consent to associate with you, and so then you have to leave. Same thing with a business, right? You can walk into a business, but they say, "Hey, you need to get out for whatever reason." You're the one in the wrong for if you stay there.
But I have the freedom to associate with your business.
Yeah, we have a
I
right
don't
to
have to
not.
associate with
Right,
you, but
right, but
I have the
still,
freedom to associate with your business.
if someone has the freedom to, yeah, but the people inside who represent the business have the freedom to not associate with you. That's the whole point.
On a
It takes
personal
two
level,
people to
yes.
consent, just like with sex. It takes two people to consent legally.
So again, we have to have this spelled out because if I I could get lawyers all day long that will make the argument that I have the freedom to associate with your business, no matter
Right.
if I
Well,
associate with you as a personal individual or not. You
you,
know.
Stephen called you a commie, and Seawell's kind of making
So
the point too. You have a right to choose with whom you wish to associate with.
right. So
Yeah.
ultimately, the point I'm making to this spins back to Cantwell's comment that it provides more, this libertine vision.
Well, I disagree with his
Hold on,
premise, though.
because, and I've made this point to you before, the things that libertarians say that they want in this, the pure libertarianism that is in there somewhere amidst all the confusing
Were you talking about like
ideology
anarchy? Because that would be the end goal
is,
of libertarianism as an ideology. That would be
well,
the
yes,
end
and
goal.
of course anarchy won't work.
No, I wouldn't advocate for that, but that is the logical
But there
conclusion
have to,
of
so,
libertarianism.
when it's all said and done, there have to be controls. There have to be stopgaps built in to the structure so that people understand where the liberties are and understand how to exercise their liberty. Again, and his point was that, you really do need a lot of control in order for a libertarian society to exist.
But see, I disagree with that. You don't need a lot.
You've
That's
got,
why I would say yes, government is a necessary evil, but it is the ultimate evil. But
but we
just a
live in a
little bit of it is necessary. I know we live in a society. I understand.
we live in well, you didn't.
We live in a society. I know.
We live in a society that of idiots like yourself that need what you can do and what
I
you
know what I
can't
can and
do.
can't do.
You need them both spelled out. We have to
No,
have it spelled out, otherwise we wouldn't have lawyers.
no. This is something that you like. These are very simple concepts that you learn on a playground in kindergarten. If you
John,
want to play with somebody and they don't want to play with you, then guess what? You're not playing with them. That's as
then
simple as
then
that.
then if they are so simple, then why are libertarians so divided and fractured?
Well, because this is a very simple concept that most libertarians would agree with. This particular one,
Okay,
there's a lot of other
that's an
ones,
answer to
especially
the question.
economically. Well, no, especially economically is where libertarians will disagree. But when it comes to something like freedom of association, most will agree with that. I'm sure there are some ridiculous, super fringe group of like 12 people who might disagree somehow. But
I
for the
mean,
most part,
there are some that say libertarians should be the most outspoken people on racism, sexism, inequalities. What do you say
yeah.
to that?
Well, okay. So what kind of inequalities
I
are we
just
talking
okay.
about? What kind of
I
inequality?
just said inequality, racism, sexism, these
Okay,
inequalities.
yeah. So I'm against
So
racism and against most
I didn't
forms of
say being
racism,
against it. I
especially
said
because
outspoken about them. What do you
yeah,
say to people that say that libertarians should be very outspoken about these issues as opposed to an apathetic approach?
As an apathetic approach. So I don't. So wait, when you're saying they're outspoken about it, are they pro racism or are they against racism? Or are they pro sexism or against
Again,
sexism?
that libertarians should be in the forefront of attacking these things, like speaking out against these kind of
No, you can
ideas.
speak out against something all you want. Yeah, you can
Okay,
say if you
I
say that's
understand you
racist,
can.
but
The question is, how do you respond when someone says libertarians should be at the forefront of these things, of stopping these things?
it depends on what your method of stopping them is. I mean, if you want to go out and give speeches about how
Okay,
these things are bad,
you
go
just
ahead.
want to you
What do you? I don't know what you're asking.
but the reverse is the opposite that we get is libertarian apathy to these things. Oh,
It's not apathy.
racism isn't a thing, and telling somebody you don't want to deal with them because they're black isn't racism, and it's fine.
No, it is racism.
But it's okay.
Yes, if you want to be racist, that is your right to be racist. Yes.
That's what I'm talking about. This idea
Yeah.
that libertarians seem apathetic to something that a lot of people might say that they need to be more outspoken about and on the forefront of stopping.
But see, I wouldn't associate with a business that is run by racists, by actual real racists, not like, they said the N-word one time when they were 10. Like I don't care about that, but I'm talking about actual,
But
racists.
does that
Yeah,
not?
I mean, if someone had a sign that said no blacks allowed in, I wouldn't go in that store either.
So is that not just a passive aggressive way of approaching it as opposed to stopping it? I mean, is it something
Yeah, I'm
that
not
needs
going
to
to
be
force
stopped?
someone.
It shouldn't be
Not
stopped, is what you're saying,
It shouldn't be stopped. So like racism shouldn't be
right?
stopped.
If
No,
it,
you can't stop racism. All you're gonna do is just continuously gain more and more power because to keep passing more and more legislation to stop it, but it's an unstoppable problem. I was actually talking in Steven's chat the other day about it, uh, about putting like focusing on impossible problems so that you can gain more power in order to go after the unstoppable problem. But of course, the problem's still going to be there, so it's a vicious cycle of, we need more power to stop this problem, but the problem's still here, so we must need more, and that's just continuous. That's going to continue forever until you have totalitarianism, and then even then the problem's still going to be there, but you're not going to be allowed to talk about it. So I mean, yeah, no, that's not the way to do it.
see, and like Michael Vega says that apathy is a strong word to use, and I agree it is a very strong word, and I'm willing to use it in regards to libertarianism, in my opinion,
It's not apathy, I
because
promise.
if it it's like the entire none of that matters as long as we just have freedom of association, we have freedom of speech, we have freedom of privacy. As long as our freedoms, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what people do because they're just exercising their own individual rights. So
Hmm.
this idea that we can have a shitty culture to one another, this I don't give a shit attitude about everything.
How is it? I don't give a shit.
You don't
In
do you
what
give a
way?
shit if there's racism, if
Yes.
everything you say says it's allowable and people are going to do it? And
Yes, I personally care. Yes.
apathy and cynicism is saying there's nothing you can do about it, so you might as well just let it go on.
Okay, but again, I wouldn't associate with someone like that, and a lot of other people wouldn't. And so they're going to have a very small group of friends, if any, and they're going to have a very small clientele in their business, if any,
Well, only
and their business
why?
will most
Because
likely fail.
you aren't going.
Not me personally, but there's a lot of people. Most people, in fact, wouldn't go to a
Yeah,
business that says that.
but this goes back to this dream that you have of the free market sorting everything out.
Yes,
You know,
that's not
the
a dream. That's how it works. That's how it would work if it was allowed to work. But yes.
tell me one time in American history that has it ever been allowed to work, and did it work?
Yeah, I mean, when we first became a country, it was largely free. In fact, I don't know what the economic laws were at the time, but it wasn't. There weren't many, if any, at all. And yeah, people were allowed to thrive. People were allowed to open a business and do whatever they wanted for the most part.
See, because you mentioned something earlier, and you said anarchy. If you're talking about a truly libertarian society, you're basically talking about anarchy, right? Um,
The logical conclusion of libertarianism is anarchy, but that's not what I'm talking.
so, so when what I was going to say is, so if the basic end goal of libertarianism would be anarchy, aren't things that happen along the way to that creating chaos as well? So for instance, when you say, hey, it's okay, to not, for a business to not associate with blacks, and they can put up a sign and say they don't, and yes, okay, so fewer people are going to go there, whatever, because they don't agree with that policy. But what about the blacks that get pissed off and decide they're just going to firebomb the place, right? Or suppose it's in a black neighborhood and there's no whites allowed, and the whites get pissed off and just decide to firebomb the place, because this is a part of anarchy, is these kind of lashing out,
Yeah,
right?
so
If
again, I'm not going to advocate for anarchy.
I
And
didn't say advocate.
no, I'm just saying that's not going to be, that's not an issue that I'm going to even address. But what I will talk about is like the you mentioned, what'd you say? You said it was like, oh, that it was okay for a business to do that. And I don't think it's okay for them to do that. I just don't think that it should be illegal, and there's a distinction there that I think you're missing.
Consent is consent.
Yeah.
So when you consent, that's as good as saying you're okay with it.
No, no. I'm not okay with it. I'm okay with people being able to exercise their freedom of speech,
Sure.
their freedom of association. That I'm okay with. I doesn't mean I'd like the views that
Well, the
people have.
argument
That's
the
not the same
argument
thing as being okay with it.
the argument would be made that if consent
And thank you,
does
Cameron.
that.
Cameron just complimented me very, very well. Thank you. He said, "John, you're not being very Marxist." I know. Thank you. I appreciate it.
But you understand what I'm saying from from an argument standpoint, that consent is going to be the thing that someone would argue that says, okay, well, if you allow it to happen, then you're just as well as saying it's okay. Is how the argument gets played. That's the argument behind having things like the Civil Rights Act and affirmative action.
Mhm.
I understand that, I know where I stand on those things and why I want them to go away.
Yeah.
But it is that argument that if you allow it to happen, you're consenting to it. Thus,
No.
you're as much of the problem as the people that perpetrate the
Yeah,
hatred.
that's a ridiculous argument, and it's just meant to shut down conversation. It's meant to just say comply, or be deplatformed or be destroyed or whatever threat they're giving you. It's no, it's not an argument. It is an argument, but it's a shit argument, and people need to come up with a better argument for why we need more government. We don't.
Well, I would never make the argument that we need more government, but I will always point out that, even with libertarianism, it requires a hell of a lot more government than the libertarian ideology would decrease that it want, or whatever you want to say, that it preaches, right? It would require more government than, and that's what I kind of agreed with Cantwell said there's a lot more order and control than you would expect in a libertine society. It would be
So
necessary.
no, more than you would expect, which is anarchy, is what you would expect,
I
right?
wouldn't. Yeah. I mean, if you were going with a true libertarian, yeah. But I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, nobody in their right mind. Well, one would hope nobody in their. Where's J. Edgar? Wherever J. Edgar is, I understand the
I
J.
don't.
Edgar things
I
give
don't
rid
think
of the
he's an
government
anarchy.
completely.
I don't think he's
But
an anarchist. No, I don't think he's an ANCAP. I don't
because
know. We'll have to ask him sometime.
the real thing that happens, even if you had a libertarian society that got down to its base core and resulted in the anarchy that it sought to achieve blindly, even when that happens, you have people that take control and take power, and people follow.
Hmm.
Even in anarchy, there
Oh
is
yeah,
rule of law
that's why
and
anarchy
rule
wouldn't
of
work.
boot. I mean,
Yeah.
it's this idea. So it's like, okay, so ultimately, as a libertarian, I would ask you, what would you want your true ideology to come to pass, or do you just want some governmental control? You know, which
No, what I
is
want is to be decentralized and be as local as possible.
yeah,
That's what I
and
want.
And again, then I just come back to the argument. Then you might as well just make it 50 individual countries. You know,
I mean, I wouldn't be completely against that. Make a confederacy.
you know.
I mean, that's basically what we are, but we have or that's what we started out as. That's what the Articles of Confederation were. We're basically 50 loose, countries,
Anavolta
or
says he.
loosely. I was saying, we're 50 like separate countries loosely brought together by a overarching government. That's what a confederacy is. That's
Sure.
basically what we were at the beginning, and then
Then we
you know
realized we needed something a little more
well,
binding.
yeah, then a couple people took over a state militia arsenal, and the federal troops were useless to do anything because they didn't have any power. They were like, "Oh, we probably shouldn't let this happen again."
Yeah.
Meanwhile, if they weren't being such dicks,
So you're
they
saying
wouldn't have gotten their arsenal taken over anyway. I
a
think it's
little bit
mostly
of
their fault.
a little bit of anarchy ensued, and Papa Boot had to come down.
Papa Boot didn't come down. They didn't have the power to come down.
No. What
They
I'm
just
saying
said,
is, but
Papa.
they realized they needed to put a boot on Papa for just such an instance like that again, right?
I don't know.
Um,
I'm on the side of the Springfield Rebellion.
no, but Anna Volta says he'll take control if we want him
Yeah,
to.
that's all right.
Uh,
We
he,
don't need more Germans in power, thanks.
um, but it's it's easy to see how this pipeline, as it were, could be construed as a path, right? A path to the right. You
Well,
know,
see, I think it's just ridiculous to uh, expect or to think of. Okay, so I'm going to go from government is the ultimate evil, right? Even if some is necessary, it's still the ultimate evil and needs to be reduced as much as possible while still having a functioning state. To everything within the state, nothing against the state, everything or nothing outside the state. You know what I mean? The Benito Mussolini whole deal. Like to going from like I said, government being the ultimate evil to deifying the government, I think is I don't know how you make that jump. You obviously don't do it in one day, but I still don't see how you square that without having like a massive amount of cognitive dissonance. But so many people do that. I mean, maybe it's possible, but I think most people who end up on these far right ideologies only kind of dipped their toe in libertarianism. They haven't
sure.
really
They
they
like
didn't
they
really
like the
commit to
talking
doing
points.
right, and
Yeah.
they also like that libertarians are for free speech and
Mm.
association, so they're able to say the things they want to say. That's fine. But I mean, if you dip your toe in a pool, I don't consider you having been in the pool. You know what I
Right.
mean?
All right.
So
So I'm going to read you a quote by something Nick Gillespie said, and I want to hear your take on this. He
all right.
says, in a way, Ron Paul is the guy who lit the fuse, and he
Mm,
embodies some of those contradictions between libertarianism and the alt right. He said
mm,
Richard Spencer came up to him at the Republican National Convention in 2016 and said that he was activated into politics because of Ron Paul. Gillespie sees Paul's legacy as very mixed, as someone who was simultaneously positing this very libertarian worldview, but then he's also speaking to people's fears and anxiety. If one were looking for the missing link to explain this pipeline phenomenon, Ron Paul and his paleo libertarian allies would be a good place to start. Thoughts?
that's a good place to start if you want to move on, or if you're going to move on to a different ideology. Can you read that again, real quick?
Okay,
Just just a quote.
he said, in a way, Ron Paul is the guy who lit the fuse, and he embodies some of those contradictions between libertarianism and alt right. He said he simultaneously posited a very libertarian worldview, but then he's also speaking to people's fears and anxieties. If one were looking for the missing link to explain it, Ron Paul and his allies would be a good place to start.
I don't know. I don't think. To be fair, I haven't listened to a lot of like Ron Paul's speeches or watched his podcast too much. I did read his book, his manifesto, The Revolution. I didn't hear any kind of fear mongering there, um, but I don't think that he's even if he is like speaking to people's fears and anxieties. I don't know how, like, unless it's specific. I don't know
Well,
how that leads you
I'm
to
I'm I'm
the link between the alt right and libertarianism.
well, I'm splashing back to the 2016 campaigns, and fear mongering. I think fear mongering has gotten to a point where there is, basically we could look at it as movie ratings. So like there's PG that is just pretty generic fear mongering, and then you rank up from there, right? And so in campaigns we have this. Look at anybody in this Democratic campaigns right now, at the debates. Everything is tinged with the big bad monster that's creeping up on us if we don't enact these policies. And Ron Paul was subject to that as well when he was in the debates, when he was on the campaign trail, speaking to these fears and anxieties of, what big government is
What?
doing, just talking about policy issues. Whenever, with all the things that were going on with Donald Trump in the election, Hillary Clinton in the election, we were talking about immigration, we were talking about these things. It wasn't that I don't think he was like grabbing a hold of fears and anxieties and gnawing on them like a bone. But I think there, just like any politician running for a campaign, you have to present some monsters so that your solutions look much more like the shining sword of solution, right? And it's
Okay,
just
yeah, no, I see what you're saying. I see what you're
it's just
saying.
a
I'm just
base
gonna.
level of it. But maybe it's this idea that a libertarian is not doesn't need to play on fears where someone more alt-right does. They're coming to take your guns. They're coming to,
I don't think that's alt
this
right.
race, the Jews are running everything and this, that, and the other. Not, yes, I know that's extreme alt-right talk, but what I'm
No,
saying
I'm saying that's
is
not even like just using fear mongering and saying
fear-mongering is the
and
way
saying
to
these.
go.
Right, no, I'm saying that's every politician does that, regardless of left, right, far
Sure,
left, far right,
right. And that's
whatever.
and that's
That's
exactly
how
what I
politics is work. Yeah, that's how politics works. But if we're talking about the 2016 election, the big thing was immigration, which would be up to the federal government to secure the federal borders.
sure.
That is their job, and that falls under the purview of the federal government. One of the few things that falls under their purview is foreign policy, interstate commerce, and resolving disputes between states. And then, of course, foreign policy involves our borders. Now, there are a lot of libertarians who are open border libertarians, but that's kind of hippie bullshit to me.
Well,
I don't like that.
I believe I believe what I'm taking from this is more that Ron Paul's stance was he came across as a right-leaning libertarian in
Hmm.
the campaign, and I could kind of agree with that because he did have talking points that did lean more towards. I want to say Republican as opposed to right, if that makes sense.
Well, you're talking about Rand Paul, right?
Well,
Rand or Ron?
Ron Paul, he was at the Republican National Convention. That's what he was,
Right,
or
but Rand
when
Paul was actually running, though.
Rand Paul was running, but Ron Paul
Yeah,
ran during Obama's,
I believe so. Yeah, I believe it was Obama's second term.
because Rand Paul is not that far off from what his brother preaches.
His dad,
Well,
and
his
yeah,
dad,
Ron.
sorry, his
Yeah,
brother. But what's his brother? There's Rand, there's Ron, and who's the other one?
I don't know.
I thought there was another brother, or
No, I
a
only
brother, I
know
should say.
Ron Paul is the dad, and then
Rand
Rand Paul
Paul.
is the son. I don't know if there's another one.
Anyway,
Maybe.
but Ron Paul, when he was running, and then Rand Paul, kind of, but Ron Paul was still carrying influence in the 2016, especially with Rand running. But Ron Paul has always, I don't know. I never got a libertarian mindset from Ron Paul. I always felt like he was trying to toe some amount of party line. And Rand Paul is
Um,
very much the same, in my opinion. They're
Rand
not.
Paul is much more Republican than Ron Paul is. Um, but no, I mean Ron Paul is pretty damn libertarian for the most part. I mean, if you talk to some super extreme libertarian, he's not. But I think most people would say, yeah, he's pretty
I
libertarian.
think if you went back and look at Ron Paul when he was campaigning, I don't think you would. I'm not sure you
Oh,
would
maybe
feel
while he
he
was
was.
campaigning,
I
yeah.
don't feel. I don't think you would feel he leaned as libertarian as much as he did right-leaning libertarian. I mean,
Well, yeah,
he really did
that's
sound like he was coming across
that's
as,
yeah. I
and
mean,
that's
I'm a right leaning libertarian. You know what I mean? I guess that's why maybe I say he is, because he agrees with a lot of things that
sure,
I agree with. So
right,
maybe.
and so in that sense, so and yes, there's left-leaning libertarians, but doesn't that destroy some credibility when you start to lean one way or the other as a libertarian?
What was that? I was reading the chat.
I,
Uh,
I
I
said
want to. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go
no.
ahead. All right. Yeah, Stephen was saying these beltway libertarians are such d bags. What's beltway? I guess that's people who
Beltways.
kind of
So
go with the flow.
here,
I
I'll
don't know
give
what
you.
that
I'll
means.
tell you what they are. See if this
I've
is
actually never heard of that.
libertarianism is somewhat unique in its unflinching support of free speech. In some cases, this free speech is unsavory. If you're anti-political
Mhm.
correctness, libertarianism might seem like a good place to land, even if you don't buy into the whole libertarian philosophy.
Right. Like I
That
said
sounds
before,
like
dipping your
beltways
toe
to
in the
me, right?
pool.
That sounds
Yeah,
like beltway
dipping your toe.
libertarians, right?
And
Um,
as soon as something gets difficult, nope, got to give the government more power.
right?
Nope. Can't deal with it myself. That would be ridiculous. When that's the whole point of libertarianism is self-reliance and self-dependence and or independence, I guess.
Sure. Which then that comes back to the question I just asked. So if you're a right-leaning libertarian or a left-leaning libertarian, doesn't that take you off topic? Doesn't or off the point? Doesn't that weaken your stance when you start to lean one way or the other in your libertarian thinking when everyone kind of feels that libertarianism or the general idea is that libertarian is much more middle of the road,
No,
self-sufficient, doesn't need government more,
right. I
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
I think, in my opinion at least, and a lot of people might disagree, but I do think that libertarian, like the core libertarian values, are pretty much right wing values for the most part. Right. Other than, uh, I mean, it depends on what right wing you're talking. When you're talking about right wing, because that's such a hard thing to define as well. Right wing or left wing. Like these are hard. These are hard things to define. Um, but I mean, other than like legalization of drugs, which is a libertarian, you know, viewpoint, that would be considered left wing to most people.
Liberal,
Even
yeah.
though, yeah, but I mean, like so. Second Amendment absolutists are libertarians for the most part. That would be right wing. That would be seen as very far right wing. In fact, free speech is nowadays is a right wing thing when that used to be universal. But that's pretty much right wing now only. And freedom of association again that would be considered right wing, which goes along with freedom of speech. Um, let's see. I mean, less government, that's a right wing thing now, even though both sides kind of want bigger government just in different ways. Yeah, but I agree with Stephen that libertarian is not centrist at all. I mean, it's largely right wing, but not like
Okay,
far to the right or anything
well,
stupid like
sure,
that.
but
Like it's.
so if it's right leaning, how hard is it to say that it is an open door, a gateway to moving further to the right?
Oh no, I'm not saying that you can't. I'm just saying that if someone does move to fascism specifically or its little branches, that you either were not a libertarian, which I hate saying that because that's purity testing and gatekeeping, as people would say. But I mean, if you don't believe in the values, and you can't be that thing. You know what I mean? That's like saying I'm a Christian, but I don't know about that Jesus fella. Like it kind of you need to believe one in order to be that thing. But whatever. But yeah, so it means that if you did that, you either didn't really believe it or you abandoned your principles completely, which means that you are no longer a libertarian. So you just kind of gave up and went the easy route and went with give government all the power. and they'll solve all my problems. Which of course it won't. It'll, the boot will press down on your neck just as much as anyone else's. But that's just people who gave up, I guess.
Well, I don't know. This libertarianism idea is just, I don't know. It's too all over the board. I don't.
Yeah, there's a lot of different flavors of libertarianism. Absolutely.
And this, it does. I can. When I look at this, I hadn't really thought about this, but this, libertarianism. If you were to just take the political spectrum and just take the right half of it with libertarianism, the libertarian somewhere over towards the left of that right spectrum, and then swing it up into that, almost joint
Yeah, the
circle.
horseshoe theory.
Right. So it's
Yeah.
because again, when you say, when you look at these things that people see as negative issues, and they're allowable. They're allowed to happen. Okay, I don't have to hire blacks. I don't have to hire homosexuals.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to associate with them. I don't have to let them in my business. Hell, if I have a private driveway in front of my business, a
Mm-hmm.
private road that everybody's, uses to get through past my building, but I don't want black people driving on. Right, so I don't want black people driving on it now black people can't get past my business to go to their job down this, over here, because I connect to these things, but I get to make rules because it's a private road.
Mm-hmm.
These kind of things, it just leads to that anarchist kind of mindset where people want to lash out, because the government is consenting and allowing these kind of things to happen. I'm not saying I'm not taking so much taking a position. I'm just saying that, that's where it becomes confusing to me, where I realize that to have that kind of society, you need controls in place. You need to have things explained to people about what is allowable and what isn't allowed, and what you have to allow other people to be allowed to do. Because
so what you're getting to is not necessarily with control, but the biggest flaw with libertarianism, and I've not found a way to square it yet, and I'm not sure that anyone can. But the biggest flaw is that it requires cultural homogeneity. It requires everyone to agree that libertarian values are the best values. I mean, even if even if there's slight variations or whatever, if we all agree that private property is private property, if we all agree that freedom of association is freedom of association, then, or if we all agree that freedom of speech is freedom of speech, regardless of what's being said, among other things, then, it can work. But the problem is that people don't. And so that's why it would be pretty much impossible to have like an actual libertarian society unless you kind of bought land and invited people that you vetted to live there. That'd pretty much be the only way you could do it.
Which, interestingly enough, would mean that you have to set up rules and boundaries and the whole 9 yards, right? You have to build a society, and that society is going to have to be run by somebody, whoever owns the land, whoever owns the property, and has invited these people in.
But you would be governed by consent, as opposed to just having authority, being brought over you without your consent.
I do that every day here in America. I consent to be governed by staying here as a citizen.
A lot of people don't. So
well, people are free to fucking leave. That's the thing.
Said, who else doesn't work? Socialists.
Right?
That's true.
But it's.
Oh shit! Cameron's at the final table at Cliff's North Poker event. Dude, good luck. Hopefully, you're still listening and playing poker at the same time.
Yeah, hopefully you're going to buy us dinner.
Yeah, buy us steak. He did promise us a steak dinner if he gets first prize.
Nice.
So,
I like that. Yeah. Was I included in that?
I don't know. You'd have to ask him.
I better be. So, but, when you talk about, you mentioned the word homogenous, right?
Yeah.
And I understand that you're saying homogenized from initially from a rights perspective, right? That we all have a collective understanding of our rights, right? As humans, as citizens, whatever you want to call it, we understand that homogenization. But wouldn't it require cultural homogenization, and basically harmonious homogenation on various levels? Like, for it to actually work perfectly, to get rid of that flaw, wouldn't we have to not have racism be a thing, right? if
Mm-hmm.
if that didn't exist, if we didn't have the isms, if those just didn't exist, if we all saw each other as just other people,
Individuals.
then
Yeah.
suddenly libertarianism takes on a whole new aspect,
Right.
right? But
Yeah.
with those things in play, libertarianism can never rise to power because the conflicts of those things
I
tear at the
mean,
core of libertarianism. Is that correct?
maybe, but I mean, you would have a lot more. You'd have like balkan if that happened. If it was like, oh, well, we don't want black people to move into our neighborhood. You know what I mean? Like you would basically just separate groups of people, and not even just by race or ethnicity, by belief system. You know, 5'10" people can only live here. Or anyone who's any other size than 5'10" can't live here. That'd be more likely what it would be, is restricting who can. But anyway, um, but I mean, I think that that's a huge problem with other ideologies as well, including fascism and communism, socialism. They require homogenous, values. But at the same time, the difference between libertarianism and those other ones is that the other ones can bring the boot down and force you to believe those, as opposed to libertarianism just wants to convince you
Sure.
that that's the case.
So now that argument that you made right there, that takes me back to something I mentioned earlier. If those things being gone from our society would make libertarianism much more appealing and possible, why aren't libertarians at the forefront of attacking racism, sexism, gender, sexuality, all of these things that tear us apart in our cultures? Why aren't libertarians at the forefront of destroying those things so that they have a more homogenous society to grow libertarianism in?
Well, I mean, I don't think you're going to find a lot of libertarians who will be pro-racism.
I'm not okay,
Right? They're not going to
but
be racist themselves. But no, what I'm saying is they will be outspoken about it. If you're, I don't know, doing something racist, they might say something. But um, most of the time, these protests and stuff for, oh, we're we're anti-fascist, anti-whatever, um, they're looking to push legislation through, whereas libertarians would not be doing that. And so you can be outspoken about, oh, I'm anti-racist. I think that people should be racist, but I'm not going to try and pass a law or force politicians to pass a law against, saying racist things or being racist in
oh,
general.
okay, and that's fine and well and good. But why isn't there a libertarian that's standing up and saying, let's remove the tools that help keep these things alive? Why isn't there a libertarian with policy issues that remove the things like affirmative action and the civil rights acts that prioritize groups over others? That
Yeah.
is where libertarianism needs to be
Well,
vocal and
I'll tell you
fight
exactly why.
against it by removing the crutches that keep it alive.
I'll tell you exactly why. It's unpopular. They won't get elected, and they're having a hard enough time
And
getting elected to begin with.
isn't that the bigger flaw in libertarianism?
I
Is
don't think that's a bigger flaw. No, I think the biggest flaw is the requiring homogenous culture. I think that is the biggest flaw because it's just overall that's the umbrella over like where from which all other flaws flow.
Sure, but
You know?
I think it's a greater flaw to not take the action to fix that initial flaw, right? I think it's a bigger weakness to not attempt to fix it.
Well, I think it
Um,
makes him impotent. Yeah.
and would that not give credence to, if, as, joking as it may have been, that libertarians are cowards? Because, the only way to affect change is to attack the unpopular policy, to do things that are not popular. Look at the
Yeah.
success Trump has had with doing things that are not popular, as it were.
Well, they are popular. It's just the media is not
You
going to
know
tell
what
you
I'm
that
saying,
they're
right? Yeah,
popular.
but you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying. Doing something,
Yeah.
stepping outside of the box, as it were. I mean, that's what a libertarian needs to be doing. To me, it seems a weakness that they aren't going to attack the things that prevent homogenization of our society. Because, again, like you said,
Yeah.
that's the
Well, I mean,
core
they're
of
trying
making
to get
libertarian.
elected, so I understand because they're trying to get elected.
Right.
Um, but at the same time, yeah, I mean, I wish people would stick to their, at least be vocal about their principles. They might believe it without saying they're going to do something about it, in order to get elected. But I mean, yeah, I wish that could be a conversation that could be had. But in this day and age right now, I don't think that's possible. I don't think it's possible to even have that conversation. Like, if we were any bigger than we are, we would be shut down already for suggesting, that we had this conversation.
But how do you know when it's the right time to have the conversation if you never attempt to start having the conversation?
Yeah,
I look at somebody like Andrew Yang, and this was something he said very early in his candidacy. He's like, this is going to be a very prevalent issue after I'm president.
yeah. Well, I mean, I
But the
think that
conversation has to start now.
I understand. I think that his I don't think you can compare the two because his idea is not nearly as
Well,
controversial.
sure,
So
but
I think it's a lot easier for him to start having this, saying, "Hey, this is going to be a problem soon." You know what I mean? Rather than saying something is already a problem that most people, in fact, don't think is.
well,
So you know what I mean? Like
I think
I
libertarians
don't
are
think you can
fucking up
compare the
by.
two.
I think they're fucking up by biding their time, waiting for the right moment to bring up the
I don't
very
know if that's even
thing.
what they're doing, to be honest.
Well, I don't know
And yeah,
either.
Steven's 100% right. The National Libertarian Party is mucho cooked. It's true.
And
That's why
so,
I'm a member of the Libertarian Party of Florida, not the National Party, because National Party is just totally fucked. We need to have like a branch off of that and start like the real Libertarian Party or something like that. That would be pretty memeable. I think that would be fun. The real Libertarian Party.
and now see, but isn't it a little late, John? I mean, is it? Is it? Isn't this like a day late and dollar short? Isn't that what it would just come up as? I mean,
No, I
because
mean
you
it's never too
really,
late.
you've
It's never
got
too
to,
late.
you've got to, you've got to have a libertarian candidate with some fucking testicles larger than Trump's.
We need a
Like they,
libertarian Trump is what we need.
right? Somebody
Yeah,
that could actually stand up there and say, these are the things that prevent libertarianism from being accomplished. A society
right.
with less government, with more focused, decentralized governments, these kind of things. But what's got to happen is we've got to get rid of the crutches that keep us
Right.
fractured and fighting.
Well, it's
And
not
they're
only that, but
there.
the crutches keep people dependent on
Sure,
the state, and
sure.
that's the biggest problem with those crutches. Is that people are going to be less likely to want to give them up because uh, you know it, life is easier with a crutch. Um, Stephen Ignoramus is saying, look into Mises Caucus. Okay, yeah, no, I'll definitely do that. I'm assuming that's got to be close to what I was talking about.
Sewell
So
says
I'll
which
definitely look into that.
Sewell says Trump needs to dump Pence as VP and pick up Rand Paul for
Hell
2020 and
yeah.
have Trump king make him. Um,
Fuck yeah.
but
That
it
would be
would.
awesome.
No. Trump's already got somebody lined up for that. You know he does.
Is he? I don't know how the VP thing works. Does he pick a new VP
He
for the
can. He
second
has the
term?
option.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah.
He can pick a new VP because he's got to run for president again still. So he
Yeah,
can
yeah, yeah.
he can pick a new VP.
I didn't know if he
Um,
had to like stick with his ticket or what. Because I don't think anyone at least in my lifetime, has changed VPs unless Clinton did.
because you notice
I don't know. I
Penn
don't think she did. I don't think he would.
Pence just tried to get a feather, and worked on getting himself a little feather in his hat. He, trying to be responsible for orchestrating the ceasefire that's supposed to be going on between Turkey and Syria right now. Mike Pence was over there and talked for hours with Erdogan or Erdogan or whatever his name is. And,
Erdogan, yeah.
But apparently, so I'm like, oh, there's Pence trying to make sure that he's viable for the VP pick coming into 2020. But yeah,
hang on. Steven's saying he'd campaign for Trump if he got Rand. Yeah, I mean Rand Paul is it Ron Paul? Rand Paul, that's in his ear already. He's got one of them. It's Rand. Yeah, he's got one of them. One of them has his ear for the most part, which is nice.
So wait a minute. So what you're telling me is that you are be okay with a libertarian being vice president, knowing that
Rand Paul is not a libertarian, but he's a Republican.
Is he okay? So he identifies as Republican.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if he identifies as that. I'm pretty sure he does, though.
Whatever gets
a lot. Yeah,
whatever gets
golf a lot. That's really good.
But do you
Trump golfs a lot?
Do you really want Rand Paul cucked to Trump?
No, it'd be the other way around. It'd be Rand Paul would be giving
that's
things into Trump's ear.
Right. Yes. Yeah, like that's going to happen.
Like, hey, in the Fed.
You know how many people? You know how many sweet nothings are being whispered in Trump's ear all the fucking time, and he doesn't listen to shit. He still does what he wants. I mean, come on.
Well, all you have to do is be like, "Hey, listen, Trump, did you hear what the Federal Reserve said about you?" Just make shit up about what they said about him, and then he'll be like, "In the Fed, end it now."
Hey,
sad.
I have a question for you off topic off the libertarian topic, but about Trump since he was brought up. What do you think about the next upcoming G7 summit being held at his golf club here in Doral, Florida?
See, I don't like that. That's one of the big things I don't like about him is going to his own place using taxpayer money, meaning that that money's going back into his pocket once he's done being president.
Not the first time.
No, I know he does it often. So, as an American citizen, as even a libertarian, I do not like that at all. However, that is fucking baller, though. To be able to spend money and then it goes right back in your own pocket, that is pretty fucking baller. But not with our money, not with taxpayer money. If he did it with his own money, that would be fine. Being able to circulate that money back into his own pocket, that's pretty sweet. But no, not with taxpayer money. No.
I'm just gonna throw two words out there: emoluments clause ?
Yeah.
And of course, media, MSM, aside, fake news, blah blah blah, disclaimers, blah blah blah. Inside sources. He wasn't worried about. He made the decision. He's not worried about conflicts. He's selling it as it saves the taxpayer money.
What, does he give himself a discount? I don't know. But no, I mean, I don't like the idea that he's doing that. Putting taxpayer money into his own pocket, essentially. It's basically like a slush fund for him. I don't like that at all. Don't think that's right. But hey, respect. You gotta respect the ballers.
He's seen a lot more higher level VPs, dignitary type people staying at his location since he became president. Did you know that?
I know. Yeah.
Did you know one of the places doubled the cost of its membership after he became president? One of his places, it went up from $1,000 to $2,000 or something like that. You
could say, "Oh, look, a dignitary stayed here. Price has to go up." Sure, I don't know. Right. You'll pay it because to stay in his room, you pay even more. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm just saying. It sparked the whole emoluments clause question in my head as soon as I heard it. And I was just like, that's kind of fucked up.
Well, kind of makes a good point. He might be donating the services.
No, there's going to be cost involved. They've already talked about there's going to be cost involved. I mean, his hotel's going to get paid. They are going to get paid.
And then Steven saying Trump is Biff Tannen post sports almanac. I don't know what that is.
Oh, that is funny. That's good. Okay, so that would be
Yeah, I'm not a fan of sports ball. So.
that is going to be that would be Back to the Future 2, I believe it is.
Oh, okay,
Back
yeah.
to the
Oh, that's
Future
right.
2,
Okay, yeah.
when he gets the almanac and he starts using it to make his fortune, and that's when Marty runs into him in the future.
Gotcha.
Yeah, he made a lot of money.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think I've seen the second Back to the Future. I think I've only seen the first one.
Yeah, you know what? See, well, so, of course, again, MSM. It's not being donated. From what I'm understanding, it's not being donated. It's just that's the location because it just makes more sense. Because his initial comment on it was no other place compared to what his club in Doral has to offer.
I mean, Trump is the best, as we all know.
But I'm sitting here like, so every place they've ever had the G7 has been shit. Thanks, Trump.
Yeah.
It's like,
He even said that
Jesus.
when he moved into the White House. He's like, I don't
That
want to live in
was
this piece
that
of
was
shit ass
subtle.
house. My house is way better, like.
It's like very subtle, sir. Thank you
Yeah.
for the compliment to our great G7 offerings last year. But yeah.
I know Steven's gonna throw me out of a helicopter. He said no waffle fries, no Back to the Future 2 with a little helicopter. I guess I'm going, man. Sorry.
I have to say, Stephen Ignoramus, it's been within the last within the last 3 weeks, the last month. I just sat and watched all three of those back to back because they were being offered on one of the streaming services, and I was like, oh, I haven't seen this one in a while. So I watched it, and I'm like, well, I might as well watch all three, and so I went through them all. By the third one, you're a little backed out, but...
And yeah, it's not like I'm against Back to the Future 2, I just haven't seen it yet. I could change that.
I love how you
put my opinion on.
I love how you put the yet on there, like it's still in the theaters and you might go see it.
I could go see it
it's like
see it anytime I want to.
I just haven't gone and seen it yet. Yes, because it's been out of the theaters for 35 fucking years.
I haven't seen it yet.
Well,
I'm gonna go back to back in time to when it was in theaters, and I'll watch it there. It'll be fine. But yeah, that can change my not having seen Back to the Future.
Interesting.
But my opinion on waffle fries will never change.
Interestingly, also within the last 2 weeks, pulled up to a traffic light. My wife and I were in the car. Pulled up to a traffic light and uprolled a DeLorean. The same.
No shit.
And he was part of a DeLorean club. Had a little Back to the Future thing, little decal on the back.
Like 3,000 of those or something like that. I know there's a small number. I don't know if it's 3,000, but there's a small number of them.
But sure enough, that the Back to the Future DeLorean pulled up beside us, and this was within the last couple of weeks while we were out in traffic. It was interesting to see that. Weird things happen in coincidental ways, right? Yeah. So, John, I just to recap, Democratic debate. Go Bernie, go Tabby. Tabby. I like calling her Tabby for some reason. Tulsi. It's because Tulsi. Gabbard, and I just want to call her Tabby. But anyway, go like Bernie, go Tabby, go Andy. Those three really did well in the debate, and we've come to the conclusion that libertarians are cucks, and libertarianism is a gateway drug to
fascism,
cowardice. It's a gateway.
Nate's not in the chat. You don't have to.
It's a gateway drug to cowardice.
Yeah.
The Libertarian Party will. Libertarian Party will never.
Libertarian.
Libertarian.
It's a libertarian. Yeah.
Doc Brown was a true libertarian. Roads, where we're going, we don't need roads.
That's right. How will we pay for the roads? Speaking of that, I saw in a libertarian meme group, no less. There was like this vehicle that has a road that goes like as a track, like a wheel around it. So like as it goes, it puts more road in front of it, and then it goes underneath, and then goes back up and recycles. So it's like this truck brings its own road everywhere, and it's like libertarian, fantasy kind of deal. So it has its own road that like circles around it.
Isn't there I thought there was a military vehicle that did something like that.
I think it is a military vehicle, but no, it's like a track, like they had the tracked like tank tires.
Like a half track.
Yeah, but it's not. But it said goes over the
Right.
top of the whole
But
vehicle. Yeah,
I was thinking that there was something, I don't know, that sounds familiar from a few years
yeah.
back,
So it
or
just breaks its
maybe
own
years.
road everywhere. It doesn't need your stinking ass,
Yeah.
public road. It'll just go where it wants. Breaks its own road.
Uh, it doesn't, libertarianism is dead. Libertarianism is going to be the next zombie movie.
That
Um,
would be cool. I would
yeah,
watch that.
right. Night of the Living Libertarian.
Bunch of libertarians
Actually, it would be
arguing
the
over whether or not killing zombies violates the NAP.
I mean, if it's true libertarianism, it would be Night of the Dead Libertarians. So,
Dead from arguing with each other before the zombies even
right,
got to them.
right. It's like, are you sure you want to eat the brain? I have a right to eat the brain. Do you? Doesn't that
Yeah,
infringe on somebody else's rights to eat the
yeah, it
brains?
violates the NAP.
Look. You and your governmental. Can
Don't
we
tell
just
me what
eat
to do.
the?
I'll let the brain if I want to.
Can't we just eat the brains and get along?
Yeah.
But anyway, so libertarianism, time of death.
Time of death, 1789. Isn't that when the Constitution was?
Yeah,
Something like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Libertarianism is not a pipeline to anything. It's a blocked colon. Um, all right,
Oh
so
man.
because you guys won't shit or get off the pot.
Well, shitting violates the NAP. You might stretch your, might stretch your asshole out.
There it is. All right. So on that disgusting note, we're gonna get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
Thanks for stopping by tonight, folks. Hopefully, we've managed to destroy any educational thinking that you might have had in your life, and seeded the vibrant seeds of idiocy. The idiocracy is real. It's coming.
Yeah.
Tune in. But we're going to get the hell out of here. If you liked what you're hearing, hit the like button. If you didn't like what you're hearing, hit the like button. The dislike button is not working at this time.
True.
If you haven't already, please hit the
Big statement.
subscribe button. John, where, when, how, what, why?
Yeah. So coming up here in 10 days, so not this coming Monday, but the following Monday, we've got R-rated conservative as a guest. He's gonna come shoot the shit with us. So that'll be awesome. Then Halloween, we've got our Halloween Spooktacular, our awesome, Halloween special. So we're going to be giving to charity during that one. It's a 3-hour stream
Hi,
that we're going to
my
for.
name's Charity.
Yeah, no, we're not giving to that charity.
Oh.
No, we're going to be giving to St. Jude's Children's Hospital again. We had a lot of fun working with them last time, even though they didn't know we were working with them. But we had fun.
I'm glad they didn't know it was us.
Yeah, no, they would be like, no, now you're going to money. And then Friday, December 6th, we've got our 12-hour charity live stream for Toys for Tots, so we can get some toys to some needy children who wouldn't otherwise get any. Because as we know, toys are not a human right as of yet. So until they are, and the government provides each child with the teddy bear, we have to do it ourselves, guys. Not everyone can just buy toys for their children. So we're gonna help buy a few, I think, for some kids.
Because remember, toys shape the minds of children. It is through that they can imagine and they can grow and they learn. And it is those things that you
for
want.
all the kids.
No,
we're all gonna get BB guns.
No, John.
Right.
God. Why do I even try? Hey, by the way, folks, if you look down below, as John normally tells you, John, there's some places they can find us at. There's the Tweety thing, Tweety Bird.
Yes, you can find us on Twitter at the GenGapP. You can find our Discord server down there. We need more people in there. We have 149 subscribers and like 30, 40 something people in the Discord server. Come on, guys. Do it. Just do it. Click it. And then also down there is the link to freedomscoop.com. You can find us and other creators such as Stephen Ignoramus, who is in the house tonight, and or at least in the chat, not in the house, really. Jay Edgar, among others, including Wyatt from Roundtable Decision, and a lot of other cool people. I'm sure there's people writing articles and whatnot. But also, more importantly than all of that, you can find our merch store where we have shirts available to buy. So buy our shirts or I don't know, don't maybe, but I think you should buy them. There's also a 15% off promo code, which is also down below. So you just click that link there, you go straight there, put in a little promo code, get 15% off, and then you start, sporting some swag. It'll
Right.
be awesome.
Gin swag.
Gin swag.
I like it.
Hell
All right,
yeah.
folks. So me and the coward are going to get the hell out of here and go do something deconstructive, which is kind of what we've been doing for the last 2 hours. So enjoy it. But anyway, John, we'll see you on Monday night at 9 o'clock for a regular Shooting the Shit episode.
Right.
And then we'll be back again next Friday at a regular time at 8:30, doing it all over again. Hopefully we'll have some juicy nuggets lined up that'll be coming at us from the crazy sphere. Outside of that, I'm going to get the hell out of here, John. Nice talking to you, folks. Have a good night. Peace out, everyone.
Yep. See you guys.